The implementation of the Boulder Valley School District's 2014 bond will occur in 3 phases over 6 to 7 years. It will support the district's strategic plan as well as educational innovation. But the bond will also be able to address energy use. The Sustainable Energy Plan is the guide to implement energy goals. BVSD has made progress in energy reduction since developing the Sustainability Management System in 2009. We met our 5% reduction goal and energy use is generally trending downward. However, costs are trending upward. This is due in part to inflation, EPA regs, and other factors. The bond will address natural gas reduction with new equipment, new systems, or by tuning up existing equipment. Electricity use and costs are not as straightforward, however. The district, along with every commercial electric user across the country, encounters 2 types of electrical costs: consumption and demand. These 2 concepts are very important to our energy goals. The best way to understand the concept is through the car dashboard analogy. Consumption, which is measured in kilowatt hours, is like the odometer. The speedometer relates to electrical demand, or kilowatts. To illustrate the concept, let's use 2 cars. Now, they both consume the same distance, but the fast car requires or demands power more quickly. And in a building, it's similar to turning the lights on all at once, which would be high demand, versus slowly turning on the lights. Demand charges are typically more than 50% of our billing because it's expensive for a utility to be ready for their customers' demand. But what's important to note is that a percentage of our building's maximum monthly demand remains in the bill for an additional 12 months. Therefore, by reducing our demand, we'll also reduce our costs. The short-term goal of the energy plan is a 20% reduction from our 2008 baseline. Long-term, we want the average district EUI to be 30 kBTU per square foot or less. This is important because the cost of doing nothing is too great. The money saved from utilities can be used for more important things in the district, like the classroom. Now, from an energy perspective, the bond has 3 types of projects. Zero net energy capable projects will have an EUI goal of 25, which will allow renewables such as solar to be added to offset the utilities used by the building. This category includes all of our new buildings. Deep energy retrofits target a 50% reduction. However, not all buildings are ripe for a deep energy retrofit. 8 of our projects hit the triggers needed to achieve great savings. But if we're unable to meet the goals with the allocated funding, the bond work will provide us with a plan of how to implement the work in the future. Finally, we have projects that aren't new builds and don't qualify as deep energy retrofits. These are renovation projects that feature retro commissioning. In these buildings, some existing mechanical systems will be replaced. The equipment that does not get replaced will be retro-commissioned or tuned up so that the systems are running as efficiently as possible. The facilities master plan calls for adding air conditioning to 8 of our schools. Now, this will obviously add to our energy footprint, but our goal will be to provide the most efficient means of cooling possible within the project budget. There are 3 strategies to implement our energy work. For our zero net energy capable and deep retrofit schools, the design consultants will employ integrative design, which is an innovative process that differs from typical design, and it usually results in more efficient buildings.
Buildings are huge users of energy, materials, water. Where we put them determines how much we need to travel around. And of course, buildings are also a slow turnover capital stock. So once you build a building the wrong way, it will continue to gobble resources for decades.
Traditionally, buildings have been created by an architect with an idea, who then gives that 3-dimensional idea to a mechanical engineer, a structural engineer, a landscape architect, etc. and they say, here's the building now, heat it, cool it, put a structure around it, etc.
Generally, we conventionally design how a building looks and then figure out how to make it work, mechanically, electrically, sustainably, etc. This process sort of turns that inside out.
Integrative design means designing the building as a whole system and optimizing it for multiple benefits rather than optimizing components of the building or subsystems in the building for single benefits.
What we found is that high-performance buildings aren't about adding a green covering at the tail end. That's always expensive, and that's what gives building owners and other folks in the building community the impression that green buildings are expensive.
We're so conditioned to thinking that very efficient must cost more, but through integrative design, you can tunnel through the cost barrier. At first, the cost goes up as you save more and more energy, and it goes up more and more steeply. That's called diminishing returns. But if you keep going, you often get to the point where you can eliminate mechanicals, for example, and then the cost comes down more than you paid to get there. And why should you get there the long way around when you can tunnel through the cost barrier directly to that destination?
One of my favorite Einstein quotes is the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results. So if we expect buildings to perform significantly better, we need to change the process by which you put them together.
When the whole team works on the whole building as an integrative design problem, you pay less and you get much better results. Everything gets better. There is no compromise, no trade-off.
BVSD is also partnering with the Rocky Mountain Institute to develop workshops that will help foster best practices for the design teams of zero net energy and deep retrofit projects. RMI hopes to scale their work with BVSD to impact school districts across the country. Finally, third-party energy consultants were selected through a rigorous request for proposal process, and they will be involved in every project, to varying degrees depending on the project type. Their tasks will span the entire project, creating an arc of continuity for energy. The consultants will audit existing buildings, provide design energy modeling, provide commissioning services, which ensure proper function of new equipment, retro commissioning for existing equipment, and finally, measurement and verification services that will verify the performance of the energy model. This will also find problems that the commissioning process did not uncover. Energy is just one facet of the 2014 bond. If you'd like more information regarding the facilities master plan or to view the energy plan in its entirety, please visit our website at www.bvsd.org.